This is the iGo Outland Torngat RS. iGo's inspiration for this rugged e-bike came from the Torngat Mountains in Newfoundland and Quebec. It's a harsh environment that takes some serious character to survive in. iGo designed this bike to handle off-road and overland rides in that sort of environment, or to extend the riding season on your local trails through the winter. So what gives it the ability to do that? Let's take a ride and find out. First things first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our e-bike content. We release new reviews every week and we're almost at 70,000 subscribers, which is really exciting. We've also got more e-bike giveaways in the works, which you can be the first to know about if you hit the bell icon as well. But let's talk about the Torngat RS and one of its defining features. Specifically, those obscenely large 26-inch by 4.8-inch Maxxis Minion tires. I know they're called fat tires, but we've just taken to calling these obese, but in a good way. They have a ton of big, chunky tread to grab onto whatever kind of terrain you're riding in. And with so much width, they're also super stable. They help to absorb some vibrations and bumps. Their size helps provide traction in slippery conditions like sand or mud. And while we didn't have the chance to test them in snow, we think they do pretty well there too. We also like that iGo spec'd this model with a really nice suspension fork. This is the RST Renegade 26. It has 120 millimeters of travel, and since it's an air and oil fork, the stiffness of the damping can be adjusted to match your weight or the demands of your environment. It's a higher end component than the suspensions on the other Outland e-bikes from iGo, and it makes the Torngat a bit more capable in rougher terrain. The bike also includes a really responsive 500 watt mid-drive motor. It has iGo branding, but this motor is made by Ananda, and it kicks out a max of 130 Newton meters of torque to get you moving quickly and help you with tougher climbs. I found it to be pretty powerful, and it's also pretty sensitive, so it's able to give you power very naturally in response to how hard you pedal. So those were sort of the standout elements of the bike from our perspective, but I'll run through the full spec package here to give you the whole picture. The bike includes a removable 48 volt, 720 watt hour battery with Samsung cells in the down tube. And while neither that nor the Torngat itself are currently UL certified, our contact at iGo said they're in the process of attaining UL 2849 certification for the bike. We have a 9-speed Shimano Alivio drivetrain here with a 34-tooth chainring and an 11 to 36-tooth cassette. There are hydraulic disc brakes. This is the Tektro E350 system with 2 piston calipers and 180 millimeter rotors. The saddle is the Viento model from Cell Royal, and as another highlight, that comes on an EXA dropper seat post with 150 millimeters of travel. But moving up to the cockpit, all of the controls are mounted on wide handlebars with a small 28 millimeter rise. iGo's marketing said they should be 700 millimeters, but ours were 730 millimeters. There are ergonomic rubber grips on both sides with the Alivio rapid fire shifter on the right, and then the left has a removable thumb throttle along with the dropper post lever and the color display. That display is something we really like. The buttons are nice and big, so they're easy to press even with gloves on, and the screen is color-coded for each pedal assist setting. The Torngat RS is also Bluetooth enabled, so it can be connected to the iGo Ride app. The bike ships as a Class 2 with both its throttle and pedal assist limited to 20 miles per hour, but through the app, it can also be swapped to a Class 1 with the throttle deactivated, or a Class 3 with pedal assist up to 28 miles per hour. One last thing before we jump into the test results. The Torngat RS weighs 65.2 pounds, which includes the 8.3 pound battery, and it has a total payload capacity of 275 pounds. That covers just about everything, but if I missed anything, you can see the full spec list in my written review on our website, which we'll leave a link to in the video description down below. But let's talk about the Torngat's real-world performance. We tested the Tektro hydraulic brake system on the Torngat RS by pedaling the bike up to 20 miles per hour, hitting the brakes, and then we measured how far it traveled as it came to a complete stop. Its average after 3 tests was 23 feet 2 inches, which is about 10 inches beyond our current average for all the fat bikes and EMTBs we've tested previously, but overall it's a pretty decent result that meets our expectations. Going by feel, our experiences lined up pretty well with that. They seemed a little on the slower side, but they did the job when we took the bike out in the desert, so we feel comfortable saying the brakes are safe and effective. That said, the E350 system here is more of an entry-level component, and considering that the Torngat RS is priced between $4,000 and $4,500, we think that cost justifies better brakes. You'll be fine on the bike as it is, but a 4-piston system would give the bike better stopping power and would also require less frequent replacement of parts, so we challenge iGo to upgrade the brakes on the next iteration of the bike. I'm gonna pass you off to Forrest for a little while for our speed test. He rode the bike in each pedal assist setting to get an idea of its speed and power output. I'll see you back here in a couple minutes to talk about the results.
Okay, now we're going to downshift to 6th gear and test the pedal assist speeds at each level. And so starting out, we're in no pedal assist, and it's all my pedaling here. I'm in 6th gear, and I'm averaging about just under 10 miles per hour. I just hit 10 miles per hour. So now I'm gonna hit the eco mode and see how that helps. Okay, eco mode. Felt a slight kick in there. You can see we're increasing another 2 miles per hour. So I'm gonna take it up a gear now, 8th gear, and pretty good speed, about 13 miles an hour. Now to tour mode, number 2, and I felt a good takeoff there. Look at that, we're 16 and a half, approaching 17 miles an hour. Real nice. Going in the 9th gear, and now we're going to go up to sport mode, number 3. And this has a torque sensor, so as I pedal harder, it's going to take me faster. So I'm already at, look, 19 and a half about. Some good speed there. Now we're going to go up one more, turbo mode, and boom, 20. So this thing doesn't go faster than 20. I can go up to, from turbo to boost, but it's not going to do anything. I'm already at 20 in turbo mode. So powerful motor this is, for sure. Throttle test for the iGo Torngat. How many seconds from 0 to 20? Throttle only, no pedaling. All right. So obviously to get the throttle going, you got to pedal a little bit at first. So I'm standing up here. Ready, set, go! 12 and a half, 15, 17, 19. So you're coming up at 19.9. Yeah, 19.9.
Thanks, Forrest. So you could see that he had to put in some effort to get this thing moving without the motor just because of the rolling resistance from the tires. But his top speed there was 9.9 miles per hour. Moving up through the 5 pedal assist settings, Forrest reached 12.3 miles per hour in eco mode, 15.8 in tour, 17.5 in sport, 19.5 in turbo, and 20.2 miles per hour in boost mode. If we put that data in a graph, the overall trend shows very evenly distributed increases in power between PAS settings, which we liked just because each setting felt like it had the right amount of power. There was a bit of a tapering off in boost mode, but that's a pretty normal thing to see on Class 2 e-bikes that can be set to Class 3s. I did a separate test with the bike unlocked to 28 miles per hour and had it up to around 27 in boost mode. But for our formal test here, Our result was a little cramped by the 20 mile per hour limit in Class 2 mode. We like the fact that it can be unlocked to Class 3 up to 28 miles per hour for those who want to ride the bike on the street. 20 miles per hour is definitely enough for trails though, and we found ourselves using Tour and Sport modes for the most part, while keeping Turbo for small hills and smooth areas, and then using the full amount of power in Boost mode for steeper climbs. We tested the life of the Torngat RS's 720 watt-hour battery in 2 separate range tests to see how far the bike could travel on a single charge. In the first, we used Boost mode to get a low-end figure, and in the second, Eco mode gave us a high-end. We measured between 37.3 and 82.9 miles, and our tests took between 2 hours and 14 minutes and 7 hours and 10 minutes to complete. iGo advertises a range of up to 37 miles, which we exceeded in both tests, although it's worth mentioning that we did our tests on paved bike paths, and riding the bike in dirt, sand, or other tougher environments is likely gonna be a bit more demanding on the battery. You might end up with a bit less range than we did, but then again, we also measured over 1,600 feet of elevation change across our 82 plus miles, so who knows? Either way, we recommend performing your own range test in the area that you plan to ride, and do keep in mind that cold weather will reduce battery life as well. Ultimately, we were very satisfied with the Torngat's results in this test, and the bike looks pretty efficient by the math. We estimated that our Boost mode test would last an hour and 26 minutes with a result of about 29 miles, but we measured nearly 30% more distance and 55% more time before we needed to plug in the battery. We tested the Torngat's climbing ability with its throttle and pedal assist system at a location called Hellhole Trail, which has an average grade of 12% over a third of a mile. Justin performed our hill test, so I'll pass you over to him to see what happened.
Okay, so now we're on the iGo Torngat using the throttle only. We're gonna see how it does. I'm in 4th gear, which I think is the right gear to kind of keep it, you know, spinning enough, but not too low of a gear, where I'm still able to get some good speed. And I think that's right, given that through this first section, down about 9.5. I will note, if you take your feet off the pedals while you're on throttle mode, it will move the pedals forward. But if you just leave your feet on the pedals, it doesn't force you to pedal. It's just a little kind of a weirder thing with this one, but not too big of a deal. And so far, power-wise, it feels pretty decent on throttle. I'll let you listen to the motor through this next kind of punchy climb section. So kind of a mid-level whine, I'd say. You definitely hear the tires, these big old fatties kind of rolling around. But overall, pretty quiet on that motor. And so yeah, overall, it's got good hill climbing capability from a throttle standpoint on the bike. I'm very anxious to see what the results are, and I think they'll come in fairly decent for a mid-drive throttle. So we'll see. Okay, so here we go on the iGo, the Torngat, the mid-drive motor. Again, I think it's from Ananda, not 100% sure, but it's branded iGo. We'll see what these big tires do and how it compares to the other Outland models that we've got from them. So far it feels fairly decent. Dropping down about 7 on that. Again, I am putting a little bit of effort into it. It's not soft pedal like the rear hubs, but not too bad by any means. I hear the tires almost more than the motor. The motor's pretty quiet. So I'll let you listen to it kind of through this next section so you can hear for yourself. It's got a little bit of pitch to it, but not too bad. And we'll see how it goes through this next punchy section. I'll let you listen here as well. So you can hear the motor, nothing crazy. And I'm kind of surprised the big tires don't feel like they're slowing me down. And we'll see how it compares to the others, but so far it feels pretty good climbing up this hill. Definitely has power to climb things, and I'm very anxious to see the results.
So as you could see, the bike did a solid job in both tests. Justin reached the top in 1 minute and 29 seconds with a throttle and had an average speed of 12.2 miles per hour. The boost mode pedal test was a little slower with a time of 1 minute and 42 seconds with an average of 10.6 miles per hour. We tested the other 2 e-bikes in iGo's Outland series, those being the Cabot RS and the Sawback RS, and all 3 bikes, including the Torngat, had very similar results. The Torngat ended up a little slower because of those big heavy tires, but it still did great when compared to many of the other e-bikes we've tested with 500 watt mid-drive motors. All of that power from the motor made a big difference when we were riding on rough single track and double track as well. We tested the bike in a number of areas, including hills with loose sand and dirt, and the Torngat's tires helped it hold on, while its motor gave us the help we needed to overcome the grade. We liked that iGo included a throttle as well. It has the benefit of using the bike's gearing to make climbing easier, and while some trails don't allow throttles, they can come in handy if they're legal where you ride. They can help with sudden changes in terrain that might give you trouble with shifting, or help you clear obstacles that you'd strike with the pedals if they were moving, so it's a nice added touch. I'll pass you off to Justin again to show you his experiences with the bike on some single track and in a sandy wash. He'll share his thoughts on the Torngat, and then I'll wrap everything up with you back here.
All right, so we are out on the trail with the iGo Torngat RS. Apologize if I said that wrong, but this is iGo's fat tire electric mountain bike, kind of an overlanding fat tire that you can kind of take. It basically extends your riding season, and in theory, kind of ride about anything. So I've taken it out to one of our local trails, and we're gonna put it through its paces today to see how it does climbing hills, how it does, you know, going over chunk. There's some sandy dry riverbeds that we're gonna go through. We're gonna have a lot of fun out here today on this. But brief overview, kind of the bike. It has a 120 mil RST Renegade air fork that so far feels pretty nice. I definitely like it more than the fork that comes on the Sawback model. The tires, the Maxxis Minion fat tires, they're 4.8 inches thick. As you can see, they just kind of roll over anything. And I do like the fact that they spec them with Maxxis. I run Maxxis on a couple of my mountain bikes, and this is basically the fat tire version, so I already can tell you I really like the tread pattern. The motor, kind of the heart of this bike, is that iGo branded motor made by Ananda, 500 watts, and I'm really curious once we get to some of these punchy climbs to see how it does. But right now, so far in this flat section, it's felt very responsive, very smooth. And I gotta say, I'm appreciating the suspension on the bike. It's definitely not having any problem kind of, getting me over this single track here. So yeah, so what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna do a kind of a lap through this trail, and I'm gonna just kind of start and stop the GoPro at certain sections so I can walk you through how this bike performs on a trail and off-road. Okay, now first, this section here is, I'm just kind of going back where I just came from. It's kind of smooth, so I'm gonna use this as an opportunity to kind of test it out, the different levels on flats. So this is Eco. I'm in 7th gear. I don't have any problem kind of getting through this on eco. I'm going about 11-12 miles per hour. So I kick it up to tour. You know, jump me up a couple miles per hour, and this is kind of where I feel I'm starting to feel really comfortable here. Don't have to put a lot of effort into it. Sorry about the wind. But this is a pretty good speed, 13, 14 miles an hour through here. Isn't bad. Handles fairly nicely, even with these big front tires. Let's kick it up to the next mode. So sport mode. To the bridge. Yeah, so very easy going 13 through here. Using the brakes a little bit. They're the Tector HD350s. They're only 2 piston brakes with 180 mil rotors. On our brake test you saw it could have done a little better. But so far out here, I'm feeling pretty confident on them. Not bad at all. And then, so in this turbo mode here, sorry I said sport, I meant turbo. It's just kind of chewing up this trail. This is pretty easy. Yeah, that's the different power levels. Okay, now I'm going to drop into some single track here. Again, this is cross-country single track, but fairly technical rocky as far as XC stuff goes. So I'm definitely going to be on the C-post dropper. We got some loose stuff through here. Rolls right through. So yeah, we're going to have quite a bit of rocks. So sorry if this is a little bumpy. Some corners. I'll be shifting. I gotta say, this is a little more fun than I expected. See how it does on this stuff. That front fork absorbed that pretty well. You hear some rattle in the drivetrain there. Not to be like, I'm not airing these tires down given how much sharp rocks are out here. But I could probably air them down just a little bit more to smooth this out. You know, there's no rear suspension. I don't know if you really need it. You know, I can just get off the saddle if I want. And if I was going through snow or deep mud or anything, that might actually be a negative thing to it. Yeah, so I say the bike, I definitely feel the weight of the tires. I'm not going to be jumping this by any means. But it's been pretty fun. You know, on those corners, it's handled well. Tires are gripping well. Suspension's doing pretty good. Little 2-inch jump there. It does okay. Definitely just mows over these rocks. So this section of the trail is uphill. I have not had to shift much. That's one nice thing about e-bikes, you don't have to shift as much. You can just change the power level. I'm currently not in turbo, so I want to be able to kind of maneuver through these rocks a little bit more. Let's kick it to turbo. See how it feels. Sometimes turbo feels a little too much through this technical stuff. I'm definitely feeling the kick of turbo. I'm going to go 11, 12 miles an hour up this steep section here. Set nose on this rock. So I'd say the motor engagement is nice and responsive. I'm not getting any lag really, where after I stop pedaling it keeps going. And the initial engagement, when I kind of push down and start putting some watts into those cranks, I'd say it's on the smooth side of things instead of the punchy side. And that's kind of more of a personal preference. But it is nice, responsive, and I feel comfortable hitting all this technical stuff because I'm not getting lurched forward, right? So just clipped a pedal there on the rocks. So could maybe improve that clearance just a little bit, but it's not bad. So yeah, and that's the nice view that we've got here on the top of this trail. Now let's head downhill and see how we do. I'm gonna shift down to more eco going downhill. Number one, I don't need it, need the power. Number two, that just helps me. When I'm first testing out the bike, I want to make sure I'm not gonna give it a little too much on the downhill. And we'll see how much chatter there is here and kind of test out the brakes on this section. So I'd say it's doing a little better on the chatter than what I expected. There you hear some when I really hit something on that rear. Yeah, so a little bit of chatter there. The brakes, they do feel nice and controlled. I think mainly you're just going to wear them out a little bit more than a 4-piston brake set would. But from a performance standpoint on the trail, unless you're really like, oh, I don't know, I've been cruising quite a bit, I think you're fine. I'd also say I don't think I would ride a ton in eco. I'm going to boost this up one notch. Even on the downhill, I'm finding that I want a little more power, just as I kind of hit sections like this, just to maintain my speed and flow. So I think downhill, this tour mode is probably where I spend most of my time, unless I'm really trying to book it. But it's kind of where naturally I feel like the bike wants to be. So cornering, it's not bad. Personally, I would probably put some wider handlebars on this. That's my personal opinion. But you don't need them, and some people might like the more narrow bars that this has. So yeah, let's go. Now we met up with Griffin. Let's go see if we can find some dirt, some sand, some other stuff to ride through. All right, we're gonna go off-roading a little bit here. Given that that's what this is, hopefully I don't get it flat with those stickers. And I will try to get away from some of this wind. We're gonna go down to this riverbed and see how the bike does in kind of some loose, you know, more overlanding scenarios. I can take it down. I'm gonna probably just keep it in sport here. So those flat tires are helping. Again, I aired them down from the last section that I did on the single track. And I should have done the whole single track with them aired down. I bet I could air them down even a little bit more here. So it's not as loose as I was hoping, but this will give you a good sense. Like, just having no issue with this. This here, so here's some sand. Let me turn around and we're gonna try to climb that section. So GoPro never shows how steep it is, but it's fairly steep. I can make it up on a regular mountain bike. But we do have some soft sand before. I'm gonna keep this up. Turbo. Ship it down. Kind of loose. Had no problem through that at all whatsoever. It's pretty fun. Let's climb up here just a little bit. Then we'll turn around and go back down through it. So we're gonna about hit that sandy section, go down, drop that seat post. No issues gripping through that sand at all. So good job on that. Let's go down through that riverbed some more. So this is definitely more loose, kind of. About as off-road as you can get. A little sliding on those tires. You can kind of feel how bumpy it is. They've recently done some work down here, so this is kind of nice. There we go, slid a little bit. Kind of hit that with some speed. And yeah, I don't think you're gonna ride too much of that normally. That's a pretty good test. And I'd say it held up. That was actually more fun than I thought it would be. All right, so on this bike, there's Eco, there's Tour, there's Sport, there's Turbo, and there's Boost. I get always confused with Tour and Sport because they're the same color. Don't really know why. But I'm gonna try to walk you through what each of them feel like on the trail. This section here, other than the headwind, is a pretty good section to do this. So right about 12 miles for Eco. Let's kick it into Tour. I would say I do feel I think the output difference between each level is consistent, and I like that. So I jumped up a couple miles an hour. Now I go to Sport. And yeah, I felt it a little more subtle between Tour and Sport. This section has some maneuvering, so I'm going to wait to kick it into Turbo and Boost till I'm out. Okay, let's go to the next one. Yeah, I did feel a difference as I kicked it up into Turbo there. I think you'll end up climbing a bit in Turbo. And let's go into Boost. Yeah, Boost has really good power. I think, again, you'll reserve this more for hill climbing, or if you're just trying to really fly down the single track. But it's kind of fun. And so yeah, I'd say as far as like power output goes, the motor feels nice and responsive, distributes that power evenly across those different assist level settings. The closest feel like it's that Tour to Sport, but there still is a difference. So yeah, I'm actually a fan of this motor so far, for sure.
As you could see, the bike did a great job in all of the areas that Justin was riding. Those chonky Maxxis Minion tires and the RST Renegade suspension fork were definitely two highlights of the ride quality here. We liked that the stiffness of the fork could be adjusted and customized, and by airing down the tires, we were able to maintain really good grip over more slippery surfaces. These tires will really help to extend the riding season far beyond what you'd normally have with narrower tires. One area that we'd like to see improved is sizing. The Torngat comes in just a single frame size that corresponds to about a medium to large when compared to similar bikes from other brands. iGo says that this frame should fit riders from 5'3" to 6'2", and we were pretty comfortable. Most of our testers are in the neighborhood of 6 feet tall, but we'd still suggest that iGo expand the number of frame sizes to a minimum of 3 so that taller or shorter riders would have more of a tailored fit. I want to give kudos to iGo for the motor, though. It packed a really good amount of power for the trails we tested the bike on, and we loved how quickly it was able to adjust its power output based on how hard we were pedaling. The Torngat has a lot of potential for overland adventures, and we wish iGo offered a cargo rack for the bike, but our contact there mentioned that plenty of aftermarket racks will fit the Torngat. Just be mindful of the width of the 4.8-inch tires when you're shopping. We found that the placement of the throttle lever and the dropper post lever on the left bar conflicted with each other a little bit, but we were really happy to see the dropper post. We thought the bike came well equipped in general, although you might want to consider upgrading the drivetrain to a Shimano Dior or SLX gear set when the Alivio components eventually need replaced. Bottom line, we think iGo did a really great job with the Torngat RS. We had a lot of fun testing the bike, and we really appreciated the standout features that I mentioned earlier. I also have to say I'm pretty partial to the loud hum that the tires make when you're rolling around on them. We like that this bike really has the potential to go just about anywhere at just about any time of year. It did a great job on trails, it has a lot of overland potential, and with the right gear, it would make a pretty solid option for bike packing adventures. We'd like to see stronger and longer lasting brakes considering the bike's price point, and we think iGo should expand the number of frame sizes, but otherwise the Torngat did really well in our testing. It felt powerful and comfortable, and you have to admit that it just looks super cool too. If you think the Torngat RS might just be the bike for you, we'll leave a link to iGo's website down in the video description. We put a ton of time and effort into our reviews, so please use that link if you decide to make a purchase, as it helps to support us with no additional cost to you. There's also that link to my written review in case you want to read more about our tests or see how iGo's other bikes performed for us. But that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Again, I'm John with Electric Bike Report, and this is the iGo Outland Torngat RS.